Hi, everyone. Welcome to the HeroX Innovation Leadership Speaker Series. I'm Jamie Elliott. I'm joined today by Suman Roy. He is the founder and CEO of Feed Scarborough. Suman, thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to dive in today. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your innovation journey so far.
Awesome. Thank you. First of all, thanks for having me, Jamie. This is a great conversation. Not often looked deeper into the innovation and how it happens. So, just to give you a little bit about me, I'm currently the founder and CEO of two organizations. One is the Feed Scarborough, and the other is a Zero Hunger Project, which is one is more local to Scarborough, Canada, and not Scarborough, UK. I know people get confused. And the Zero Hunger Project is more of a global organization working with nonprofits globally. So my
Nice.
innovation journey started very early in my career. And when I say career, it's literally from my life. I always say innovation is not always what you build or what you create, because you're innovating all the time as you're building yourself up or your life up. You're thinking outside the box, and I think that is the main thing that I've always done. And listen, coming from India to Canada in a very early stage of my life with literally $42 in my pocket, one thing I strongly believed in, that there is rarely chairs available for you around the table, so you need to carry your own chair. And I give that advice as much as I can, but you cannot do that unless you're innovative, unless you're thinking outside the box. The old chairs are very bulky and heavy to carry, so you really can't. You need to be thinking. So that is my innovation journey in very flowery language, as you call it. It is all about how from $42 staying in the side of the street, from early days to uh, now with Feed Scarborough, and I was also the national corporate chef for Campbell Soup prior to this. So that whole
Nice.
journey, it is nothing but innovation.
Wow. That's interesting. I love the chair analogy, um, because some people don't think they need to bring their own chair. Or some people show up to the table and say, "Where's my chair?" Right?
It is, and one thing I always say, if and I'm not trying to boast here, but if I always said that, oh, there is no room for me around this table, so I will stand back, then Feed Scarborough wouldn't have happened, Zero Hunger Project wouldn't have happened, and whatever little I've contributed and done, that wouldn't have happened because I wouldn't be successful doing that. It was when you're a newcomer, a young person with no money, no job, coming into a brand new place. Uh, Always you're not welcome around the table, and I'm going back 25 years. And keep in mind, this is hard to digest a lot of times. Racism still is very prevalent in many places, though it is not as open as it used to be. But I remember when I was starting my career early here, racism was very prevalent at that time, and people were not ashamed to say it, how they did not like people of color around the table. So, from there to make space, you have to push boundaries, not take no for an answer, uh, because there's always a lots of no's.
Yeah.
And
Plenty of
sometimes the
no's.
no's are, yeah. And sometimes the no's come because it's a test. You just need
Right.
to pass it.
Right. People will not even think to make a space for you at the table, right? Because they're at the
100%.
table. Right. And so I think there's an innovator mindset of, why can't I be at the table? Right? There's always this why not? And I think that that's a big part of innovation.
Absolutely.
So tell me about the organizations. I'm really
Absolutely.
curious to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Feed Scarborough, I'm going to start with that first. That was born in the beginning of pandemic. And in the beginning of pandemic, when the whole world was shutting down, so was in Canada, everything was shutting down. And so was our only food bank in our community was shutting down the doors. We didn't know for how long. And rightfully so. They were in a basement of a church, 100% run by senior volunteers. So at that time, in the beginning of COVID, people were scared. So while they were shutting down, and our starting from our prime ministers to our mayor, everybody saying stay indoors, don't come out. COVID is bad. I was the one who was going and knocking on everybody's doors and saying, "Hey, please come out. We need to help our community. Can we do that?" Uh, so many doors were like, why are you a crazy guy? Stop knocking at our doors." But some doors opened and community came out. And we said, listen, COVID is going to be done in 2 weeks, 14 days, the curve is flattened. It's the longest 14 days that I ever had in my life. And we said, just for 2 weeks, let's help our community and then we'll be back to our world. And that's how Feed Scarborough started, literally in my backyard. And we were helping, and 2 weeks became three, four, and there was no end in sight, and things were getting complicated by the day. The first wave, then the second wave, then the third wave. And with that, we were like, okay, is this ever going to end? And how do we even, what is our exit strategy? How do we even exit right now? We can't. Because if we exit right now, how many people are going to suffer because they are relying for their livelihood on us? They're reliant on their food, which is a basic human right. So, keeping that in mind, we went on doing little at a time, and now this organization has got 15 full time staff. We serve around 8,500 people every week with access to food. It's grown, ballooned 5 years, 6 years, almost 6 years later. But one thing that and this is where the innovation comes in, we are a strong believer of, if we just are another food bank, then we will be doing this thing 50 years from now. And we will always be complaining, oh, look at the demand on the food banks. People are hungry. We're going to be keep on complaining 50 years from now, 60 years from now. There's no end in sight. So
Right.
we need to have an innovative approach, not that we shut down food banks, while we are dealing with, to actually address the root cause. So in our organization, what we did was we took our organization, and we have three umbrellas, three buckets that we work in. One is the emergency food bank, which is handout food, food banks. The second is the long term impact program, where we are coaching and guiding our community members to get a job, to get trained, to start their own business, whatever that might look like. With that, we are building the resilience in the community so they don't need to come to food banks. And then our third approach on working with post-secondary institution on policy development, and actually from talking to our elected official on what policy level changes can happen. Because we believe that if three things work together, we will have a solution.
Yeah.
Now, that
That's
was
awesome.
very innovative at that time.
Yeah.
People were not thinking about it. And so we started that. And then, to tell you about the other organization, I needed to tell you the story because there's a bridge to this piece. So when we were doing that in early 2024, we were invited suddenly out of the blue from this poverty reduction conference happening in Bangkok, saying, listen, we have been following you guys. We would love for you to come and speak at the conference. And we're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
somebody in Bangkok is actually studying us. It's a small community organization. What's happening here? So I go there and I speak. And I tell you, it was a room full of over 50 people who were attending from 50 different countries. And I was the most uneducated person probably in that whole room, because everybody was a PhD and professor and very educated folks. And I'm the one who's like, sorry, dude, I'm the community guy here. I get my hands dirty. So, but it was a great experience. We had a great conversation. But since that, we started thinking that, okay, so this model is great. It's apparently a success story. So, how can we further innovate to make this model more widely available around the world, so other NGOs who are small like us can jump on this bandwagon, be innovative, and solve the problem, not just put band aid after band aid? So, with that, we opened this other organization called the Zero Hunger Project, which works very closely with the United Nations and other and with grassroots organizations globally to tackle hunger in a very resilient way. That's a
Very
long-ended
cool.
answer.
No, that's Exactly what I wanted to hear. That was great. It's really great. I think that models like this are so important. Just two quick things. One of the organizations that we got to interview for this same speaker series is called Say Yes. It's an organization in Canada focused on domestic violence. And similarly, they openly state that their mission is to no longer exist anymore. They don't
Same,
want there to be a need. If they do their job right, then
100%.
yeah. And the other thing is what I get to see from my own work with HeroX in crowdsourcing, where with organizations like the National Institutes of Health in the US, who are running a challenge that's about to wrap up in January, the second phase. It's called Community Champions for Disability Health. And these are community organizations that are doing something in the healthcare space. They're 501c3 nonprofit organizations, and they said, who's doing something special for the disabled in their community? And we want to hear those stories, we want to amplify them, and then we want to showcase them because there are probably other organizations that could pick up these models and run with them and do similar things and help their own community. So what you're doing, it's innovative in how it spreads, right? In how it scales and how it's designed to scale and help others all around the world, it sounds like, which is amazing.
Thank you.
So what kind of programs and projects do you have going on right now? What's on the near horizon?
So from the Feed Scarborough side of it, once again, and I'm going to use the buzzword that you are using quite a bit: innovation, innovation, innovation. One of the challenges, and this is something that many NGOs, the nonprofit organizations, face, is the really high cost of space. The retail spaces, the it's really high rent wise, especially in bigger cities. So we haven't figured out, but we do a lot of mobile programs. So, for
Okay.
example, our healthy meal program, which used to be we have a kitchen where we cook and people come and grab food or sit down and eat. We don't have space anymore because the rent go keep on going up. So we got food trucks. So we actually take the food truck in different communities so people don't have to travel. And in Canada,
Nice.
as you know, the weather is amazing, especially in the winter. So we people don't have to drive or take the bus in the snow and walk miles. So we
That's
go to
great.
them. So that's one program that is really very new. Not too many nonprofits are doing program like that,
Yeah.
which is amazing. The other program, which I'm really, it's very close to my heart and it's a very new program for us. So we purchase an ambulance, and not for anything to do with medicine, but that ambulance goes to community, excuse me, and hands out dietary restriction food. So, for example, diabetic meals,
Sure.
hypertension meals, heart healthy
Yeah.
meals. So, we do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, the whole plan of this program is we know that often people who are in a socioeconomic bind do not afford the right type of food that is good for their health, that makes them sicker and makes them, even it's a vicious cycle. So they can't go to work because they're sick, they can't work because they can't make money. So it's a vicious cycle. And the reason we actually decided to get an ambulance rather than doing it out of our food truck, because we are a strong believer that food is medicine. If governments actually invest in food care, then the healthcare cost will come down.
Yep. Yep.
And so
That's
that is why,
fantastic.
to make that statement, it's out of an ambulance. We can't call it an ambulance, so we call it RX Eats. But it
Nice.
goes around, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But that is kind of innovation. These are a couple of models that we just launched within the last month. But we have programs where we actually train our community members on current job, how to get employed, and we put them in front of employers to see if they can get hired. We have business incubation program, when we train our community members on how to start and sustain their business. We work very closely with the Toronto Police Service here in Toronto, where we actually work with youth And we know there is a lot of youth in our community, because we have phone calls from high schools to 911 talking about the crime or violence in schools. So we work with these schools where the maximum number of 911 calls are, and we get the youth who are at risk, and we do every Sunday a Sunday camp. It's 3 hour camp, 1 hour boxing training, 1 hour basketball training, and 1 hour career development training. And it is in
Wow.
collaboration with Toronto Police and Arrow, which is a headhunting company. So what it does is, one, build a more good relationship between the at-risk youth and the police service. Second of all, with the headhunting company who helps in the career development side, these youth might be able to find jobs through them. And third, what it does is, now the schools who generally typically have animosity between each other and they're fighting amongst each other, now they are all working out together. They're friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's shown success.
That's awesome. And I think at one point you mentioned something about with the police, you all put food in police cars?
Yes, that is absolutely. So that is a very innovative program. And once again, I always say innovation, and a lot of times it comes out of necessity. When early days of COVID, when people were generally not coming out of the houses, we had to figure out how to get food to them. Now we did have volunteers who would come and deliver the food, but there was a limitation, because volunteers are also not coming out if they're seniors because of COVID. So we were trying to brainstorm and think, what can we do to get the food to the people? And then we realized, well, the police are driving around the town anyways in their cruiser. They're not sitting inside the police station. So why not we use that channel to distribute the food? And our superintendent at that time was very open to that idea, and that continued for 6 years. So our neighborhood police officers, they come, they build those small hampers, put in their cruiser, and off they go. All the cruisers have those small hampers of food. When they see somebody in distress, instead of starting with enforcement, they start with handing them a bag of food that they can immediately open and eat, which brings down the temperature of the conversation down very quickly. And then there is a trust that got built with the police, and they're talking more sensibly, and it's a great win-win solution.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we don't think about it, but when you say it, it's logical, right? Eating is such a communal thing, right? It
It
is, and
is
it is something we do normally. We relax when we do it, right? We take a moment to ingest. It's
100%.
interesting. That's
And
really cool.
also, it is such a win-win, because hangry is really a thing.
It
And
is a
we
thing.
Yeah, and we heard from the police officers that it has prevented a lot of arrests that would have had to happen, because now it's a complete different person they're dealing with, who's
Right. Right.
cooperating, talking, and not resisting.
So interesting. Um, yeah, we got to run some challenges with the city of Austin, Texas, a few years ago, and they did several iterations of this, and it reminds me of some of your efforts. It was called a reverse pitch competition, where organizations or companies, established companies that had some sort of material waste, a byproduct of whatever they were producing, something from their process that they thought might be able to go to good use. They, those companies would pitch to local entrepreneurs in Austin and say, could you start a company or start some vertical of your own company that could do something with this waste byproduct? And
Hmm.
it was successful year over year, and it does only good. I am curious about Feed Scarborough. Where does all the food come from?
95% is donated. Out of that, around 35 to 40% is rescued. So that is where most of our food comes from. We do purchase some food when we need to, but it is all about figuring out where we can prevent wastage while we get the food that we
Right.
can serve out. So its environment is
Fantastic.
a huge factor to it.
Yeah. So I'm curious for others out there like you. So, and that's a broad statement, right? So, others that are innovating, others that are helping feed their community, others that are just supporting their community in some way. What advice would you have for them? What would you tell
So
them?
so there's no one size that fits all, of course, but I always say that you got to think outside the box what nobody's thinking. And I'll give you another very quick example. When we were
Yeah.
starting up, it was literally out of my backyard, and we had zero money because we were not planning to do this.
Yeah.
We had nothing. And when we started growing and seeing the demand, we didn't have any space to work out of. We can't work out of my backyard because food in the backyard plus raccoons is not a good idea. Uh,
Yeah.
they will eat the food. But also, we had to figure out solutions. So, when we were talking to other NGOs who existed at that time, and a lot of them were answering the same thing. Oh, you need a lot more money to even go start this because rent is so expensive and all of that. So we said, okay, we need to think outside the box because I don't have a magic wand that will generate dollars in my office or in my bedroom at that time. So what can we do to be able to do this kind of program without money? What do we need? So then this idea came, which was okay, now with COVID, all development and building, they have come to a standstill. Nobody's building. So, what if we go to these developers and say, you have idle space sitting here? Why don't you let us use it till you get permits and everything is back and you're up and running? So it's idle. We get to use it. You look like hero in front of the community. When developers always look like a villain in front of the community, now
Yeah.
suddenly you're a hero because you're helping the community, and we get a space where we can operate out of. Win win
Very
win for
cool.
everybody,
Yeah.
and it's at no cost because you're just sitting there. It's idle under lock and key. And now with people coming in and out, it's actually being used, so it's not being broken into. There's no anything illegal happening there as well, so it's all good. And that is how we were able to convince, and that's how we grew so quickly, because now we had 6 different locations we opened up because we got this space for free. And let's think how we can, and then slowly we established ourselves and we did what we had to do. But that is the thinking outside the box. There's no one size that fits all. You just need to be creative.
Very cool. I love it. I love the message. How can our listeners learn more? How could they get involved?
So feedscarborough.ca, zerohungerproject.com, and all of them are listed under one website, that is foodsecurityinitiative.ca. So you go
Nice.
there, you can
Okay.
see all our websites. There is a lot of different programs that we do. Follow us on social media. That is another great way. And see what our programs are and what we are working on.
Perfect. We will put all of those links in the description for this episode. So, man, this has been fantastic. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for sticking it out past COVID. Thanks for not
It's a
seeing the finish
pleasure.
line there.
I don't see the finish line. I don't know where it is.
That's good. That's good.
Thanks for
And
having me, Jamie.
always bring your own chair, right?
Of course, bring my own chair.
That's great.
Always.
Thank you so much for your time, Suman.
It's
Take
a
care.
pleasure. You take care. Bye.
Awesome, man.